Hey everybody, welcome to Your Virtual Coffee, a web show which introduces you to great local businesses in the Denver metro area. Today, my guest is my friend and wonderful business person, Adam Kemper, Client Acquisition Manager with Plumb Marketing. They offer direct mail, print, and branding services. Plumb Marketing, where creative design and results-driven marketing collide. And with that, Adam, welcome to my show.
Gina, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Adam, I like for our audience to kind of get to know my guest on a personal level. So if it's all right with you.
Absolutely.
What do you like to do for fun?
I'm a father of 3 kids who are all now above the age of 11. So there's a lot of chasing children through what activities they're doing. I have a lot of musicianship in my kids, and they're not big sports people. So it's just a lot of fun doing that. We spend a lot of time in the outdoors. I'm busy with a lot of fundraising philanthropy efforts. My son is a cancer survivor, a pediatric cancer survivor, and both the Leukemia Lymphoma Society and St. Jude's were so integral in helping him to reach a healthy stage again. So I do my best to give back to them and to do some fundraising activities with them. And between that and like I said, the 3 kids, that keeps me mighty busy.
So chauffeur duties and volunteer duties are pretty much.
Although this year has had a benefit. My oldest is now a driver and she can take the other kids. So I have a new chauffeur helper.
That is great news. I'm still waiting on that.
It's an exciting moment, and yet.
And you had a special, or someone in your family had a special designation this year. Is that correct?
Yes, my oldest daughter was nominated for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society Student of the Year program, and did a fundraising campaign, and it was amazing to get to see a 17-year-old girl get to lead adults through fundraising and almost like a business type of business plan and action activity. Quite a good learning experience for her.
And probably great experience too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, getting to talk to business leaders, getting to, ask and gain so much confidence in the real world while still protected at that, high school age.
So you kids watching this out there, be sure to volunteer. It might just help you find your next career.
Absolutely.
And
And if you want to
speaking,
know more about the Leukemia Lymphoma Society's program, I'll let you know about it. Just reach out.
definitely. So if you want to know about that, we'll put you in contact with Adam. Now, speaking of business side, Adam, what drew you to marketing?
Well, I started as a sales rep in a lot of small companies, and I found myself selling a product that nobody knew about, whether it was the product itself or the brand. And I started building, whether it was through my own social media or through bootstrapping at a very tight budget, programs to try to make my job easier. If I don't have to explain to you what we do and who we are, I can just start learning about how to serve and whether we're a fit. It's a much easier sales process. And as I went through that, I had a friend who was a heavy closer. And we were sitting down over drinks one night. And he said to me, Adam, you are not a good closer. As a sales guy, you sit back and you say, what? And he says, but you might be the best opener I ever met. And I sat back and chewed on that and understood the compliment that it was. And I realized I'm not really a good closer because my close is basically the question, does this make sense? Are you comfortable? Because I do my stuff on the front end to get people to trust me, to understand what the proposition is. And then I realized 90% of that was marketing. 90% of the buyer's journey happens before a sales rep ever talks to a person. It's what they see through your marketing, through your website, through your reviews, through other things that they're looking at before they decide to pick up the phone or fill out the form to talk to you. And if that's where I was being told I was great, I've always been told lean into your greatness, right? So I started really studying and understanding what the philosophies behind it were and the methodologies. And that really transitioned into becoming a marketing professional. And as I did that, I came to the realization that it was a behavior that was learned from childhood. See, I'm a younger brother. My older brother was only 2 years older than me. And we had a lot of overlap. We were both Boy Scouts. I was actually a Boy Scout first. He joined because of my experience in Boy Scouts and the fun I was having. But because of that, we ended up running in a lot of the same circles. And younger brothers are stuck with a label. You know, you're a little more annoying than your older brother. You're a little more tough to deal with because you're less mature. Well, sure, I'm 2 years younger. I'm the 2 years younger version of that guy that you like so much. So I had to learn how to sell myself and not get kicked out, because these were people I wanted to be friends with too. And I thought I was. And then my brother showed up and he's like, I don't want my brother around. So, you know, you can whine. That's a strategy. You can go with brute force. That's a strategy. Force them. I want to complain and whine to mom and dad. That works. So I went with the strategy of, if all the other people found me interesting and liked me, my brother could say what he wants. He was one voice in a crowd of people saying, come on, Adam, come with us. And the easiest way for me to do that wasn't to talk more or to push into it. It was to learn what they were into and geek out on it with them. And it, you know, if you're all kids, teenagers, it's not like there's going to be that diverse of a set. So I just learned which video games this guy liked, which TV shows this guy liked, and then talk to him about it. Suddenly I was more interesting. Suddenly I was more wanted. I realized as I was growing into marketing that I was marketing myself to that group of people so that I could sell that I shouldn't be kicked out by my brother. And that same behavior of trying to understand what other people wanted has really shaped a lot of my behaviors psycho-emotionally through my life. And I think given me a bit of a superpower when it comes to marketing, because I look for that same thing in businesses. I don't care what your features and benefits are. You are amazing at those, I'm sure, but your clients don't understand them at the level you do. They don't care about them at the level you do. They care that, Gina, you made my life better. I had stress, I had pain, I had trouble. And then I met with you and those things melted away. And I knew I had a plan to figure out what I was going to do next. How? I don't care. I do not care.
Well,
if you tell me you have the same problem and that problem is exactly what they solved, I don't care how they solved it. I want to meet them. I want to talk to them. Sell me that.
Okay. Speaking of problem solving, what keeps your ideal client up at night, and how do you solve that problem?
Well, and in marketing, it shifts. It shifts a lot because it's always about finding the next person. That's what I always hear. I need to fill my pipeline. And it's a very simplified worry that when deconstructed is an octopus. It's got at least 8 tentacles. It may be way more than that, because in this time and age where we've had a lot of fear in our world lately, all of 2020 was a pretty fearful period. We see a lot of people window shopping, regardless of the product, because they're just not sure if they're ready to buy. And so, you've got people staying up at night trying to figure out, how do I get more people into my pipeline? And they're looking at it like a whale. And how do you eat a whale? Well, unless you have a plan of attack, it's just too much. So a lot of what we do is help deconstruct from their perspective that big question of, how do I fill my pipeline, Well, what isn't working? If it's not full, something's not working. What is that? And we really bring to the table ability to break it down, because it's part of the reason it keeps them up at night. It's almost too big of a question to answer for as small as it sounds. It's like looking at the wiring in your house and wondering which tiny part of it is causing the short. It's somewhere in the walls. It's definitely going to take a professional to figure it out.
So that's something that Plum Marketing does. You guys sit down with that client, you listen to them, which I'm sure is the most important part, because we all want to be heard. And you work out real time, real life solutions. Would that be?
I would agree, absolutely. A perfect case study. I was working with a nursing facility last year. And one of the things that we were discussing was they're very focused on what they do. Again, features and benefits. And I asked them the simple question: when you meet one of your residents' family in the hallways of your facility, and they say, "I am so thankful that you have done ... Finish that sentence. And we built their marketing collateral around that, instead of saying their price point, instead of saying how many nurses and doctors they have in the facility. I mean, those all factor into it. But when people say that my mother and father feel at home, at peace, and comfortable in this facility, and do not have the resentment for being put in a home that we expected them to have because they love where they're at.
You remind me of a conversation I had with my cell phone company years ago, where I broke up with them, and their idea of trying to retain me was to tell me how much fiber they had buried throughout the country. That meant nothing to me. You know, if you want to talk to me about, if you stay with us, we'll give you a discount for this, or if you stay with us, we'll throw in a new phone, that would have probably kept my attention, because that appealed to me as the consumer, just like what you described with people in the nursing home. It's this, you know, that same kind of conversation where listening again, you know, because again, we all want to be heard. It's kind of sounds like it falls into what you do on a daily basis. Is that correct?
Absolutely. You know, when people hear print and direct mail, they go down a certain mental path. But before we as a company would even consider pitching our services, I need to know what you're doing, who you're wanting to talk to, and then from the honest answer of, do they even, are they going to listen if we do it this way? Where do they want to hear this? Because there are messages that come across more genuine and honest in different mediums. And you have to look at the way people listen as much as what they want to hear and that they want to be heard. Because I can say the most psycho-emotionally impactful, resonating message, but if I'm speaking to 65 plus individuals on Facebook, I'm probably missing the mark.
Well, speaking of digital, such as social media, Plum Marketing does quite a bit of print, direct mail, that type of stuff marketing.
Mm-hmm.
How do you speak to that digital audience?
Well, and there are ways to do both. We have a unique tool that allows us to do digital retargeting for mailing lists, so that the people on the mailing list will get Google retargeted with Google banner ads and Facebook and Instagram ads. So it can be across multiple platforms. One of the things that we really try to help people to understand is there is no silver bullet in marketing. There is no one platform. There is no one tool. There is no one thing that is the magic do-all that's going to make you known. There's actually an organization in the marketing industry called BMI. It's the Business Marketing Institute. There are standards and measures. And they do an annual survey where they calculate what the number of touches that it takes for a brand to go from brand new to brand awareness from a customer. And they estimate right now between 12 and 14 touches are required to just get somebody to go, oh, I've seen that brand before. We're not talking buying behavior. We're not talking trust. We're just talking, yes, I recognize the existence of that logo or brand. And that takes 12 to 14 touches. So you can't expect to send one mailer or do one email blast or do one social media blast. When somebody says, which should I do? My answer is yes.
That's a great way to put it. That is a really great way to put it.
And again, it goes to understanding though, because it depends on who you want to talk to. You know, you have to know where your audience lives. If you're going to do a digital campaign on a social media platform, then it needs to be an audience that exists on social media. Whereas if you're going to do direct mail, there has to be certain things that you factor in as well. One of the industries that we don't see a lot of direct mail from is highly regulated industries like financial services.
Law firms.
Yeah, it's really difficult to put something out there as a marketing piece with the regulatory environment. But when you meet with somebody and you hand them a beautifully printed sheet that tells them your services inside of a beautifully printed folder with your business card in it, that still makes an impact on a person. And depending on who their demographically are, most people are still going to want to walk away from an interaction with something. And that is where people forget how much print there is in the world, whether it's mail or not, that a business uses in their average business day. Business cards, marketing slicks, folders, anything that you want to make sure expresses to your client who you are and why they should trust you should not be printed on a Xerox machine in the back of your office on standard bond paper. And
I'm just thinking about business cards come to mind. And I sometimes notice there are some that I get that are maybe not as firm or thick as I'm used to. And that's immediately what comes to mind is this person putting 100% thinking about their business when they're doing this?
Are you serious? Are you trustworthy? Is your brand quality? It speaks to the quality. So we speak to people, you know, and you don't have to break the bank, but there's a difference between inexpensive and cheap.
Yes.
I respect people who are trying to make sure that they make their dollar go every last mile possible. But there is such a thing as a mile too far. I don't tend to brand bash, but I will brand bash in one case, and that is a lot of the things like your Vistaprints, your Postcard Manias. Part of the reason they save so much money in print for people is because there's a term in print called spoilage. It basically means there's going to be a certain amount of stuff that comes out crooked that needs to be fixed and replaced. Now, we as a company, we absorb that. We know our budget involves a certain amount of print waste that we have to build in because the client does not need to absorb an incorrectly printed thing. Well, the Vistaprint, if you read, they are up to 20% of bad material that is accepted in their agreement. You're accepting by working with them that you are taking the spoilage as a part of your inventory.
Oh,
so
wow.
You could get 20% of your business cards crooked. And that's not, they're not going to refund you. You can order more. And 20% of that order may be crooked. Whereas, you know, you want to make sure whatever it is that you're putting into people's hands in the way of material, it has a feel and it has an experience where you go, yes, my brand feels trustworthy. My brand feels, I used this word yesterday because I was working with a company that does art restoration. and they had a lot of white space on their initial mailer design. And I told them, you want elegant. You want it to feel elegant. That catches people's eye. And so, you know, you see people who use a white background. In print from a company that's good, that does it right, I don't care if it's a drop of red or a wall of red. That's red. That's one color. That means it's a color piece. You don't save money by having a slimmed down design that doesn't really pop. But when you work with some of these cheap organizations, you do. And that really shouldn't be how it is. You know, 20% or less color, then you can do this rate. Well, great. You saved a few pennies on per piece, but now your client gets it, looks at it and goes, eh. Whereas you make it feel like it's elegant, like it has a classiness to it. And they're going to stop as they look at it and go, what's this? And it may not be the time that it makes the impact to get you to brand awareness, but at least it counts as a touch. Whereas the guy who goes, throws it away, you don't want that touch. You don't want it to count.
Plus, I'm assuming, getting into color theory, you know, the colors you use in that print media should also reflect your brand, should reflect the personality or the services that you provide. I mean, you mentioned red, and you see red a lot because red can elicit passion and stuff. So you see red a lot with restaurants, especially fast food places, because for some of us, we're very passionate about our food. We're hungry. And so it gets into that. And is that an area where you work with your clients on that as well?
Yeah. I mean, there are certain clients where, you know, we work with quite a few folks who have strong brand standards. So they come to us with certain things like their color codes. And we work with them in that case to be more working with a complementary design. But we work with many clients who haven't really defined a color code and a palette. They have colors in their logo, but they couldn't even tell us what the codes are behind them. So from that standpoint, it's also important because it matters when you match. So we help them to make sure that we define some of those standards with them and go, okay, so when we test it in our system, this is the two codes that your colors come back as. Can we set this so these are the color codes? And now we know going forward that we're not going to print something and it's going to be a pinkish hue that doesn't match your branding colors when it actually gets printed. Because that's part of the issue too, is when you get something sent out and somebody looks at it and goes, oh, it you know, like us, we have purple in our brand, very strong, deep purple. You print that wrong, it looks terrible. It either goes gray or it goes really, really hyper electric purple. And those aren't our brand colors.
I mean, your business is called Plum Marketing. Plums have a very specific color of purple.
Exactly. So if we were to have it come out differently, it would create a disconnect. And one of the things is as simple and as, I don't know, weird of a thing as it is, I guess, I don't know how else to say it. But cognitive dissonance is one of the strangest behaviors because your brain doesn't understand why. It just understands that it's the old Sesame Street. One of these things doesn't belong here. One of these things just isn't the same. And when it sees that, same is good, different is bad. That's the deference engine of the human brain. So in marketing, if they go, okay, you said this, I go to your website. Yes, it feels like this. I go to your Facebook page. Yes, it says this, it feels like this. Yes, I go to your Instagram. You have images of this. Then I get a mailer from you and it's like, my brain goes, okay, one of these things isn't like the other. I don't trust any of it because I don't know which it is and which it isn't. So I'm going to eliminate that choice completely from the pool because I don't trust it. And it's just as simple as that sometimes with a color and a feel and a layout. So we do very much work with people where, you know, I'll tell somebody, I don't mean to sound judgmental, and I don't mean to make you feel like I'm saying anything negative, but my first reaction to your artwork is negative. And after I thought about it, these were the things that made me have that feeling. But I'm not afraid to tell you, the first time I looked at it, I recoiled in a negative way. And we need to change that before we put that out to the world.
Let's talk about power partners, Adam. And for our audience, power partners are those businesses who target our same ideal client, but are not our competition. One example I like to use is a hairstylist and a personal trainer. Their ideal client are people who want to look good. And so they can refer clients back and forth. In other words, they work together to serve that same client. It's a very powerful relationship to have in the business community. So speaking of that, first let's get an idea, Adam, of who is Plum Marketing's ideal client.
Well, it has a few different facets. You know, when it comes to marketing, there is the willingness / boldness to go out and put your message out there and not worry about circumstances, not worry about, is this a good time? Is this not a good time? It's always a good time for the right business, for our ideal client. Budgets vary. That's always a tough number. But that's the second factor. You see so often, we saw it back in the Great Recession. We've seen it throughout time. When the economy gets tight, a lot of businesses, first thing they do is cut marketing. And our ideal client knows that that is a bad idea, bordering on a terrible idea. Because when you need more sales, the last thing you want to do is make yourself harder to find. So they're the type of folks who are willing to make adjustments, who are willing to pivot and listen to wisdom, because a wise investment in growing their business is always timely and the right choice. So when it comes to our ideal clients, they're that flexible, bold business. And it doesn't matter whether it's business to business sales, business to consumer sales. It's more of the attitude of, I know my buyer is out there and I just need to work to find them, that we really work well with. Because when the first sign of downturn happens and somebody stops marketing, it makes you question whether they were really ever that committed to marketing in the first place. And if you're not committed to this process, you're not going to get through the hard part. Marketing is a lot like a diesel engine, which our ideal customer also understands. No one postcard ever sold a thing. But when you send out multiple and you have multiple touches, eventually you reach that point where, again, as I said earlier, it's not any one thing, but it's everything. And so our clients tend to not just be doing print. They tend to be doing web. They tend to be doing other marketing endeavors to bolster and build their name in their markets.
Well, much like you were saying earlier, which way is the best way? Yes, they're all
Exactly.
good. You should be doing all of them, or at least considering all of them.
Exactly. And our ideal client is also not married to anything being great, perfect, wonderful, have to use, or terrible, horrible, never will use. Give me the use case of why this would benefit us, and I'm open to it. I used the term earlier. They're willing to be looking for something that's inexpensive without being cheap.
So to boil it down to a nutshell, businesses who understand the value of marketing.
Absolutely.
Is that basically? So I'm thinking, who else targets this client? So anyone who appeals to businesses, commercial insurance people.
Well, a surprising power partnership for a lot of people who aren't in the industry. I'm going to give away a marketing industry secret. There is no such thing as a full service marketing agency. They don't exist. They're not a real thing. If they tell you that they do everything, it's only because they have an agreement with another company to do it for them. And we're just upfront about it. So my best power partners are people who do marketing in mediums that I don't. Social media people, web designers,
Graphic
people
design.
who do, yeah, depending, but like large format printers, sign printers, companies that do car wraps. You know, they're all versions of marketing, but they're not the version that we do. And we are amongst a great community here in the Denver metro area of the smaller mid-size marketing agencies in Denver are all very upfront about that. You know, as in most markets, the really big agencies say and try to act like they do everything. But there is a large community in Denver of collaborative marketing agencies who say, you know what, I am a web only marketing agency. And if you want to do a complimentary print campaign, let's bring in Plumb Marketing and work with them. You know, I work with companies like McLaren and Company on the social media side, where she's brilliant in that space.
And she has been a guest on this show. Hi, Amanda.
I love that. Amanda's a great, wise friend that I can get guidance from. And you just find yourself better serving the customer in that way. And then Amanda can turn around and go, I don't do print. I want to have somebody wants to do something, and I'm going to have them work with you in the same way you've worked with me, because there's that trust and that understanding. So first and foremost, my top power partners are those other types of marketing agencies who understand what they do and do not try to sell that they're full service.
Who stay in their lane.
Exactly. Because that's the best power partner, because we're already having the marketing conversation with the person in the marketing seat. From there, actually, the next place that it goes to is the sales side, because most businesses don't understand the difference between sales and marketing. And so
They're
if
not
things aren't
the
going
same.
well, they're not. But when things aren't going well, one of the go-tos is, well, my sales team just they're not cultivating any leads. Well, maybe your brand isn't cultivating any leads, but they've hired a sales trainer to coach them on cold call sales techniques, probably. So we've worked with a lot of sales training organizations that can honestly look at a business and say, it's not your sales. If you gave your employees more at bats, they'd be hitting more home runs, but you're not giving them enough at bats. So we work with a lot of sales organizations to help fix the marketing so that when they get at bats, they can actually have the sales organization teach them how to close them. So that's the second level, is those. And then from there, it is business insurance. It's a lot of the business management suite type stuff, because if you're a true trusted advisor, and you know this in the law field, Gina, if somebody truly trusts you about that, they'll ask you about a million other things. Would you happen to know someone who could help me with blah? And generally, it's not, I need my marketing to be better. It's, I got to figure out how we're going to get a sign designed or a logo put together, or with all of this stuff that we're doing, do you know anybody who can help us put out a message to our clients? And that's usually where we get those intros. And then they go, oh, I never thought about that you could do.
Exactly. And audience, I'll tell you, Adam and I are both connectors. So we love questions like that. Who do you know that does this? Because between the two of us, I think we pretty much know all the business people, at least in the Denver metro area.
One of my side hobbies that I still do is sports card collecting. So I'm going to use an analogy. I want the full set.
Exactly. Well, Adam, what is the best way for people, those business owners that are really sweating it out right now? What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
I can have them email me at adam@plummarketing.com, and that is Plum with a B, Plumb, marketing.com. Or I'm big on the old school style. So pick up the phone, give me a call, 720-670-6500. Sounds like a business phone number. It's actually my cell. It's in my pocket at all times. And I'm always willing to help people of good heart and good mind. So be kind, ask good questions, and I will do my best to help.
Well, Adam, I really appreciate you coming on my show today. And it was so great to catch up with you. It's been forever since we've talked. Any last thoughts?
I would just encourage people. One of the things that is the biggest mistake in marketing is paralysis. I don't know if it's perfect. I don't know if I don't know if. If you have a margin of 12 to 14 touches to get aware, get out there. If you're not offending, if you're not saying anything that is going to cross a line, the worst that'll happen is nobody will notice. Do something. Post on LinkedIn. Write an email. Do a pile of handwritten thank you notes. But inaction will be the killer of your business. So I encourage everybody out there, find something to market and get out there and tell somebody about why you and your business is awesome.
Thank you, Adam. That's a really great idea.
Yeah, far too much inaction due to fear. Be bold. Go big.
Be bold. Go big or go home, right?
You got it. Exactly.
Well, audience, thank you for joining us today on Your Virtual Coffee. We could not do this show without you. Thank you for watching, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. At Your Virtual Coffee, we love business people. So, businesses, let's talk. Have a great day. Your Virtual Coffee is sponsored by Ventola Law. Ventola Law, mediation and legal representation at an expert level. You can find them at ventolalaw.com. Thanks for joining me today. For more information on Your Virtual Coffee, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and wait for it, our website at yourvirtualcoffee.com. Thanks again for watching, and have an incredible day.